Hey, good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to the Cuny Bmi Initiative monthly dialogue series. We're so excited that we made it through the 16th annual Cuny Bmi conference. I'm Dr. Sean Best, the University Director for the Cuny Bmi Initiative, and we just celebrated our 16th annual Cuny Bmi conference hosted by Kingsborough Community College, where we came through talking about facts and fears around COVID, racial injustice, and now what. And so as a sort of a follow-up to that conversation and those conversations over the 2 days on September 30th and October 1st, we wanted to continue to bring the dialogue series to you all as our community, and part of our community is about sharing resources and sharing insights from those who are part of our community. So today we have invited some amazing young people and some people who are also got some gray hairs like me, who are out here doing the thing in Cuny Bmi and being a part of this amazing community. So our conversation today is about CUNY students returning to campus. Excitement or angst? How do you feel? And so we're going to get some real insight and some real words of encouragement and some resources from these students who have been a part of CUNY Bmi and benefit from our services. I'm curious to see if all of you have actually even been on your BMI campus yet, given the pandemic we've been in. But let me just give you all, as an audience, a quick overview of CUNY Bmi for those who are joining us for the first time, and then we'll jump on into the conversation. The CUNY Bmi Initiative was established about 16 years ago through the City Council and Chancellor Matthew Goldstein at the time, who was really trying to help us in terms of improving the outcomes for Black and Brown men at the CUNY system. We want to improve academic outcomes, career outcomes, educational outcomes, and just make sure that we have the supports that surround and wrap around our students, primarily Black and Latino men, but also students in general who want to be a part of this community. So through our 6 key pillars, mainly academic enhancements, our peer-to-peer mentorship structure, and also our socio-emotional programming, we're able to bring super amazing programs and speakers to you all to make sure that students have the supports they need to be successful in college and beyond. CUNY Bmi also serves those who are getting their GED or their HSCs, their high school equivalency degrees, or they're getting their law school degree, or they're getting their medical school degree as well through the Sophie Davis Medical Biomedical Success Program. So, as you know, CUNY Bmi supports thousands of students across the CUNY system, and these are 3 shining examples of students who are doing a thing. Their stories aren't all positives. They have struggles. They're just like you, but we're going to hear their stories a little bit today and kind of get to know them a little bit. So let me give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. This discussion is really unlike any other we presented in this series, because at the very root of what we're talking about is really our opinions, our beliefs, and our faith at the front and center. We cannot forget the chaos and confusion that was caused by the pandemic and how it's caused so many students to actually be displaced either from their classes. We know that the vaccine mandate is coming up upon us, and many students are either getting withdrawn or they're not able to attend classes in person. We know that also there's a sort of increasingly anxiety around reopening New York City and also getting back to the things that we're doing, going to restaurants, going to sporting events, going to the beach, going to concerts and jazz clubs. So what does social distancing look like for a CUNY student right now? What does it look like for a CUNY Bmi student who's actually used to having those in-person interactions in that family environment? How does it look now being a CUNY Bmi student? And what are those experiences like? So these 3 students that we brought to you today are going to share with us their background, a little bit of who they are, what they're doing in their college setting, and how we can see their story evolve in this amazing, crucial time that we're in right now. We're really all in this together. So let me start by introducing the panel, and we'll jump right on in. So first, I'm going to start with Christian Ortiz. Christian, it's really great to have you here. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about who you are, what school you're at, what BMI program you're part of, and a little bit about your background.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. My name is Christian Ortiz. First and foremost, I'm a dad. I have a 8-year-old daughter. Her name is Zarella. And that really ties into what it is I do. I wouldn't say for a living at all, but more so for what I feel is a purpose. I'm a mentor at the CUNY Fatherhood Academy, and we serve young men from the age of 18 to 30. And I'm currently a student at Hunter College. I haven't been on my CUNY Bmi campus, but I have been on the campus of LaGuardia. And it just, knowing what we do over there, serving these guys and their families, and even when they bring their kids, I miss them. It's different seeing them on Zoom. And I just try to still bring that energy. And I think throughout the midst of the pandemic, I've tried to kind of continue to make myself positive with my mental health, with exercise, with serving these guys still, to still try to fulfill that purpose. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Christian. We're going to dive in a little bit more about what it is that you've been doing with those students, so we can hear that story a little bit and how those students have been impacted. And whether you're part of the Cuny Fatherhood Academy, which is supported by Cuny Bmi, or the Brothers for Excellence program at Hunter College, which is one of my alma mater in terms of my BMI involvement. We shout out to Brothers for Excellence. You are still involved no matter where you go. So we're grateful that you're a mentor and helping us and helping our students really succeed and getting supports they need. So we'll dig into your story a little bit more. Sierra Robinson, you're next. What's up, Sierra? How you doing?
Hi, everyone.
I want to hear a
Everything's
little bit
good.
more
You can
about
hear me
you.
well, right?
Yeah, we can hear you very well. Give us a little bit of background about who you are,
Awesome.
what you're doing with BMI, and a little bit of your story.
Okay, so my name is Sierra Robinson, and I am I'm at Bronx Community College. This is my second year there, and I was a pre-pandemic student, I like to say. So I got to see a lot of the change throughout the pandemic, and also currently our campus is open. So excited to be back. I go every morning at like 9 a.m. just because of the fact that I can. That's something that we didn't have before. Currently, I'm studying engineering. Also go to another school. I have another program, which I'm taking a computational modeling in engineering. But under BCC, that's why I take the engineering program there.
Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, we're going to call it the University of BCC from now on. I like that. Let's go with that.
I like it. It should be. The campus is beautiful.
It is. It really is a beautiful campus. All right. Well, we're going to dig into that a little bit more. I want to hear more about BCC and what's been going on with our men program there, the Male Empowerment Network, under the leadership of Clifford L. Marshall II. All right. I want to turn it over to Scott Harris. Hey, Scott. How you doing, man?
I'm great. How's everybody today?
Doing great, man. Tell us a little bit about your story and what you're doing right now.
Well, I am a freshman transfer student at Bronx Community College as well. Coming back to school after a very, very long hiatus, let's call it. The pandemic was interesting for me, very challenging, like for everybody else as well. And actually, one of the positives out of it, if you could find a positive out of it, was the drive to go back to school. I found myself sitting home like a lot of people. I was fortunate to still be able to work. I was just working from home. But in between my work hours, I was finding myself drawn to different programs about history and things of that nature. And it led me to get back into school and finish up my degree in my history. And that my major will be in history, actually. I'm part of the Male Empowerment Network on BCC's campus. I have not been there yet, however. I hear wonderful things about the campus. I hear how picturesque it is. And I fully plan on going to campus just to embrace and enjoy some of that college lifestyle that I haven't had in a long time. And also kind of just to get out the neighborhood and see some green and see some other people that I haven't seen every day for the past year and change. All my classes are remote, so they don't take me to campus, but I still want to go back to campus and just embrace that college atmosphere.
Sure. It's amazing to me that so many students have not been on their campus that they actually have joined because of this pandemic that we're in. So thank you so much for that introduction. You all are doing such important work individually, but also contributing to your BMI programs as well. So I want to kind of jump in a little bit to a couple of quick questions. We're thinking about, first of all, this idea of let's just start with the nugget, right? The vaccination. That is like the key question that's happening right now. A little background information, right? So I remember I got my Pfizer shot like maybe back in May, I want to say, the first one, second one in June. And obviously now they're encouraging a booster shot, which I didn't see coming. And now it's like causing a little bit of anxiety in my mind because I'm like, how often are we going to need to rely on these shots and increase in the future boosters? So I'm curious, the schools have actually, CUNY have mandated that students be vaccinated. And if they're going to come to campus, they have to be vaccinated by a certain date, or you're going to be automatically withdrawn or only allowed to take classes online. So I'm just curious, what is your stance on vaccination and how do you feel about it? And what is the general sense around the students that are around you and how they're talking about it? One thing I noticed recently, if anybody's a sports fan, you've probably been hearing about Kyrie Irving and how he refuses to take the vaccine or plays for the Brooklyn Nets. And however, there is a stat that there's like 16,000 police officers who have not been vaccinated yet, right? So the state is requiring vaccinations for sports players and for certain things, but police officers aren't vaccinated. Many of them aren't. So I'm just going to ask, your perspective on vaccination, and what do you think, and what are the students saying around vaccination right now? I'll start with Sierra first, and then Scott, and then Christian.
Okay, so I guess overall, I think having the vaccination program is beneficial to the world just because the option is there. And it shows what our science developments can do as far as like being able to come to service for the community and those that need it and things like that. And those that desire, at least they have that option. I think it was very interesting to see whenever we first got the message out that CUNY is going to require for the students to be vaccinated. And that was kind of like the first message, or at least from my end, through the emails. That was it. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, well, if it's what's required, then that's what I can do, because at the end of the day, I am a student and I want to be on campus, and I also want to continue my education. So I take the steps as necessary. And but there's also the opposite, which is, why do I have to get this vaccination? And it kind of just reminds me when I had to make the decision, and sometimes I tell others, is like, well, at the end of the day, what is it that you're going to obtain in the end? So when, in addition to being a student, I'm also a veteran student. So in the military, we are part of a government. So we have to make whatever decision that is best to the government in this case. But they make sure I'm very well protected. So at the end of the day, at the end, if I need disability, if I need this, if I need that support throughout the rest of my life, then I receive that. So kind of along the lines of the vaccination, that was my mindset towards it. And just to see how it evolved, it's very nice to also see that the school did offer the temporary permissions for students that weren't vaccinated to just get tested. I thought that was amazing. That's something that I saw at other universities as well, where they just require the students to get weekly vaccinations, and then that was it. So it's all about an option, being able to know the option and know which one is best for you.
Yes, thank you for that. Those weekly testing options does help a little bit for sure for some of the students. I'm curious, it's also being a veteran as well, just to follow up. Are you still actively participating? And if so, what is the vaccination policy for where you are?
So no, I'm no longer active duty. I completed my term. But as far as like one of the things that I did see during the pandemic was with the vaccinations for the veterans, those that were veterans and they were reaching out to us right away, even at the moment where it was only for 65 years and older. They were permitting veterans to receive, even though I'm not 65 or older. Okay. And it also came with the concept of, well, why do I need it? Do I need it right now? Because I didn't want to take also from the community that did need it as well when I made that decision. But once it came to the part where it was related to me to continue my education, then I said, okay, this is what I'll do for that purpose. Or in the case of the summer when I went to Puerto Rico and I wanted to make sure I could travel safely, things like that. When it came to the time for it, then I, took it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So Scott, what's your perspective? What are students saying around you, and how do you feel about the vaccination?
The vaccination. I have a lot of feelings about the vaccination. I am vaccinated. I got vaccinated in March, actually. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, is still a nurse and worked at a hospital in Brooklyn, and actually just called me up one day and said, hey, do you want to get vaccinated? And because it was at that point where if people still weren't showing up for them, and if the hospital didn't use their allotments, they would get reduced shipments in the future. So at that point, they were just taking everybody. So he called me, I went, I got vaccinated. Before that, my wife and I were on the fence, actually. We weren't sure what we were going to do. And I think just that availability of me being able to get it right away kind of spurred our family to get it. I got it, she got it, my kids got it. So we're all vaccinated in that respect. And for the most part, there was no real anxiety for it as far as I know. It was more aligned to make sure that we got vaccinated so that those around us are going to be safe. And like Sierra said, it allowed us to do some traveling over the summer. We went to Puerto Rico. We went down to North Carolina. We just came back from a trip to Florida, which is like COVID central. But because we were vaccinated, we had that extra layer of protection. We felt safe. Scientifically, who knows if we're safe? But psychologically, we felt like we were, and we were able to do these things without any kind of angst or any kind of hesitation. As far as the students are concerned that I've encountered, again, I haven't been on campus yet, so I really haven't encountered anybody in person. But on the Cuny app, the BCC app rather, there is a chat feature, kind of like a social media feature. And at the beginning of the semester, that chat room was very live with a lot of dissenting opinions about having to get vaccinated. A lot of students that I read their comments felt like, why do they have to do it? Why are we being forced to do it? And it seemed like at least half of the chats that I read, half of the responses that I read, the students really weren't happy with it. Every now and then an administrator would come in and try to quell some fear and put people's minds at ease. But the feeling that I got was that a lot of students did not want to be forced to do it. They rather wanted to do it on their own, take some time and maybe do some research or just, get the pulse of their family members or friends that they trust. But a lot of them felt, from what I could tell, that they didn't like being forced into the option,
right? Or
having no option, rather.
Absolutely. First of all, we got to find out what's going on in Puerto Rico that everybody's going. I need to get my ticket. With y'all. But also, I'm glad to hear that you and your wife decided. Also, I was wondering if the fact that other students weren't vaccinated or potentially dissenting from that mandate from CUNY, is that the reason why you're not going to campus?
No, when I registered in, I think it was August. When I registered. I was trying to just do classes that worked around my work schedule, because I work full time from 9 to 6 every day. Although I work remotely, I kind of envisioned there will be days I have to go into the office. That hasn't happened yet. My office is still closed. But I wanted to take remote classes that if I had to take a class while I'm at work, I could do that and not be able to get to campus at all.
Gotcha.
So that was the reason why I took remote classes. I had no problem going back to campus, honestly. Okay. And I just my personal schedule is the only thing that kind of had an impact on that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Well, it's funny you mentioned Florida being COVID central and joking way, but also kind of half serious too, because obviously there's a lot of dissent in the South and a lot of dissent in a lot of places that are sort of the red states of America. And so I understand that anxiety. My family actually moved down south to Georgia during the pandemic. Many of them moved down south, opted for less harsh winters, which I totally get. And they're still experiencing a lot of communities where people just refuse to wear their masks, refuse to actually comply with the local laws, but also don't even really believe it's real. Unless they see somebody affected personally, then they don't really believe it could really impact them or their community. And so, we don't see the hospital numbers being reported as often as they used to be earlier in the pandemic this year, last year, but numbers are still flying high especially in a lot of the southern states. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. So Christian, I want to hear a little bit about, first of all, tell us more about what, you were very expressive, and I want to tap into that a little bit about the kinds of supports you provide the other fathers at the Fatherhood Academy, because not enough people know about this amazing work you guys are doing over there. And we used to do our site visits in person and come in and hang out with you guys and see the learning happen where, these young men and boys were getting the resources and supports they need as fathers. And I'd love to just for you to dive into that and then jump into the question as well about how other guys and yourself are feeling about the vaccination.
Yeah. Well, the CUNY Fatherhood Academy, once again, I think most importantly is that we serve what you can say is like underprivileged young men, men that, came from the streets. We can just, say it like that. And, had some harsh situations growing up, maybe didn't have the support system to even go to school the quote unquote right way, like I look at my daughter, I take her to school in the morning and I'm like, girl, you got 3 snacks, you got a sandwich, you got apple juice and water. And then for a lot of us, it was kind of like, our moms didn't have it, or we just came from struggle and things like that. So in the Cuny Fatherhood Academy, we just before I signed on here, one of the things we asked the guys in the ELA class was like, how do they feel mentally? How do they feel emotionally? If they need help, who would they go to? Being open about things like therapy, being open about things like mental health, and overall, just as men of color, trying to better ourselves to then serve our significant others, or just to be better men for our families, for our children, and overall having that support group as well. We give diapers, wipes, all necessities that these young fathers can get to bring back home, because I'm a dad and I've struggled before. Absolutely. There's been times where, sometimes you have enough money to feed your kid and maybe you won't feed yourself. So just letting these guys know that they have support, that they have help, that they have also people that believe in themselves. We had orientation the other day, and I told them that when a basketball team wins the championship, even the cleaning guy in the back gets a ring. And I just want to be the cleaning guy for them. And I want a ring too. Their success is my success. And I got my high school equivalency diploma from the Cuny Fatherhood Academy. And then I joined LaGuardia Community College. The staff and everyone, they just made me feel that I could do it. And I was like, once I joined LaGuardia Community College, I began to be a mentor, but I was like, man, I'm looking at these guys coming, quote unquote, behind me, and they motivate me so much. I want to be even better. I want to further my education to give back to them. And lastly, in regards to like how things roll at fatherhood, is that when I got accepted to Hunter College, I swear to God, I felt like I was going to like one of those colleges, those football players, when they put on the hat, like I'm going here, that's it. But one of the reasons why I said, let me further my education, try to get my bachelor's and my master's, is that I never thought that would be possible. Ever did I think it would be possible, just with the trajectory of how things were going in school and in my life. So it's just taking my story and my experience and giving it back to the guys, and just in a real purposeful way. And in regards to the vaccination, I very much agree with Sierra and Scott. I think that it's very important to just, however it is you can take care of your health, do so. One of the things I try to preach over there at the Cuny Fatherhood Academy as well is that whether you are vaccinated or unvaccinated, please try your best to take care of your mental health and your body. We only have one. So it's like, I'm big on health, and I say, don't just get vaccinated and then go eat all the horrible food, or, just the concept of that. I think it was very tricky that the powers that be were very like undecided, very like, do this, don't do this. You can, okay, New York is open, it's not. But I think you have to trust your judgment and overall try your best to be healthy. And in our community, aside from your body, really, I say, please just try to take care of your mind. And also don't cancel anyone that says, it's like if I'm vaccinated but my girl isn't, or if my girlfriend is on the fence about it, that doesn't mean we're over. I don't want to counsel her. I still want to, like, us find a way to just understand one another as human beings. We've seen it a lot where throughout the pandemic, it's like you're either on this side or on that side, and if you're on that side, then I'm against you, and I just don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I love that. Reject that cancel culture. I love that. What are other fathers saying, and other students saying about the vaccination? Are they showing up? Are they wanting to do it? Are they rejecting it?
I think it's a surprise for me. I'll be honest. It's surprising to see brothers get vaccinated. It is surprising, and it's cool. Is able to see, like, okay, wow, you're taking a kind of like being a leader with your own health. I think in the Black and brown community, we are very skeptical to things like vaccinations and things like following the government. So it's tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you bring up some interesting points, Christian, I want to kind of follow up on, which is part of my sort of line of questions too. You talked about, in addition to the vaccine, there has to be some self-care practices in place. And I think about the pandemic and how it's hit, students. You three are representing a lot of students and their voice for this conversation this month. So I know that it's really, you're offering your own perspective. I'm not expecting you to represent everybody, but students in the past 18 months, it's been really hard. They've been zoomed out. They have Zoom meetings all the time. They're just probably not as focused as they probably could be. And you talked about self-care. Now, the first couple months of the pandemic, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was feeling depression. I was feeling anxiety. There's this concept I listened to recently talking about the law of diminishing intent, the law of diminishing intent. And the idea is that when you have an idea to do something, you should act on it right now, because every second that goes by, your intent just gets lower and lower and lower, right? And so I remember just going through moments where I would be sitting there, like I learned how to make banana bread on YouTube, and I was making it and I was eating it like every day for like for meals. And so the first couple months I gained weight. I wasn't feeling like myself. I didn't know that I was feeling I didn't know what that was called. But I knew that I was feeling not myself, right? So for you all, I'm curious. For me, it took a road of deciding to employ help. I started talking to my friends. I hired a personal trainer. I started going for runs, and I think I lost even more weight, and I was lower than I was before the pandemic. But I had to employ a team around me to get some of those self-help strategies in place, like meditation, like running, like eating with control, like watching my calorie count. So I'm curious, from your perspective, being a student and all the challenges that you might face, what has it been like for you to actually introduce other health measures beyond the vaccine, like self-care measures? What does that look like for you? And if it's not perfect right now, and if it's not working, you can say, I'm actually not doing a good job as well, because we're all trying to figure this out and manage this difficult human experience we're all in right now. So I'm going to go Scott, Christian, and then Sierra. But tell us some more about how you've been processing self-care, and what does it look like even in your BMI project in terms of ways that you're getting supported, or even outside of BMI, how you're getting supported for the self-care measures that will help you be successful. So Scott first.
The quarantine really took me, and I'm sure a lot of people, by surprise. It was one of those things where it felt like you're in a movie, because you watch all these. I'm a big, end of the world type genre movie person. So I like those zombie movies. I like those apocalyptic movies. And this kind of felt like the beginning of a movie when it first happened. And as we got more and more into it, my family and I were kind of like, well, wow, this is real. This is really happening. It went from, kids not going to school to nobody on the streets to, seeing ambulances and medical crews from out of state coming into your neighborhood because the resources here were stretched so thin, and bringing body bags out of buildings. It was really traumatic, and it was really challenging mentally. I'm very lucky that I have a really, really good support system around me. I mean, I have a phenomenal support system. My family, my wife, my children have been amazing, and anything that I've wanted to do or have not wanted to do, they've encouraged 10,000%. So without them, I honestly don't know where I would be mentally. I would be a mess, honestly. That's the mental aspect. The physical aspect was challenging also. I think in the first couple of weeks, I've sampled every Oreo cookie that came out, every chocolate chip cookie, every type of soda, you name it, I probably had it. And that was not good. I was able to recognize, again, the support of my family as well. It wasn't the best thing in the world to do. So from a physical aspect, I would try to keep my diet in check. And I was able to, once things opened up, make regular visits to the doctor. I just turned 50. So at that point, it's like the 10,000 mile checkup. You got to take your car in to do this and that. You got to take your body in to make sure you do all these different tests, make sure your heart is good, make sure your lungs are good, make sure your sugar's okay and stuff. So I was doing all that, and it kept me moving, kept me busy, it kept me focused on the end game. Like, this pandemic wasn't going to be, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're going to come out of it. And so I have to keep doing things that allow me to see the end of it, you know, keep my mind right, keep my body right. And like I said, I can't say it enough. The support system I have around me has been, I thank God that I have them. They've been wonderful. They're the encouragement that I needed, and that I needed and know I needed and didn't even know I needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting enough, man. I appreciate you telling your honest story and your reflection, but having that family support is crucial. And you spoke about just even the idea of getting back on track. So I'm going to come back to you because I want to ask you some more questions about the family aspect of this whole environment as well. But Christian, I want to hear your perspective as well. What does self-care look like for you? What were the effects of the pandemic, and sort of how did you calibrate after what we've seen going on in the world?
Well, I first got to say that Scott looks great for 50.
I know. That's incredible.
Before I turned my camera on, I said I'll turn it on in a second because I was trying to put some tea tree oil on my face. That's all it was. I'm trying to look like Scott when I'm 50. So when the pandemic started, man, I've dealt with anxiety for a while, but man, my anxiety just spiked up. Like, I drank 10 Red Bulls. And one of the difficulties was that I felt that some of my family members didn't understand it. And I remember one day going to my sister's room, and I was like, yo, I feel anxious, bro. And she's like, you got to stop worrying about everything and, just whatever. And I'm like, you don't get it, right? But very much like you said, Sean, I one of the most important things that I started to do was meditating. Aside from just regular kind of like healing sounds or like sound therapy, I started to understand that I don't have all the answers. So I got into a guided meditation and things like that. I used to go to the gym very, very consistently, and in the midst of the pandemic, gyms are closed, or gyms would open and then close, or just everything that was going on. So I had to adapt. I started running. I ran the Brooklyn half marathon. Of course, I had to wear my mask and social distance and all that. But now I just ran the Bronx 10 mile. I just been running. And that's been very good for my mental health because it's kind of like an escape. One negative is that I started to see it as my therapy. And then one of the things that I've recently, started to do is that I said, wait, this is a form of therapy, but now for the first time, I actually got a therapist. And I felt that, I'll give one example. I had to pick up my daughter a few weeks ago, and I had a therapy session of May. I had to pick her up at 2:20. My therapy session was maybe at like 1:30. And I was sitting outside of my daughter's school in a good area where I was able to do it. And I was having my therapy session while my daughter was in the process of finishing her class. And I was like, man, this is huge. This is like, I have it tattooed right here. It says, what we do in life echoes in eternity. And I just felt that by having this therapy session outside of my daughter's school, not by choice, that it was big. It was breaking not generational curses, because I don't think any of us are cursed, but generational setbacks and lack of information and self-care and stuff like that. And even I think also in the pandemic, I saw very much how our people just need to enhance kind of like their mental health. And I even told one of my aunts, I said that just because certain things have worked for us for 20, 30, 40 years doesn't mean that it's right. So yeah, running, therapy, meditation, and overall just enhancing love. I've gotten a lot closer with my family, and I've grown in those departments. We're never done doing it, but those have been the main things.
Yeah, love that. Christian, thank you for sharing and being so open with that. And, it just sparks a couple of thoughts in me. First of all, how important it is for us to consider therapy at some point in our lives, to consider adding that as an additional emotional support layer that can really help launch us into creating future possibilities and understanding, how to unpack and disentangle some of the past decisions and choices we made. There are narratives and stories that are living inside of us that are connected to something in our past. And a lot of times, I heard the stat recently that says that by the time you're the age 35, 95% of your life is decisions that are made based on your actual body being used to certain things and your emotional states being already solidified. And 5% is creativity and thinking about future possible different scenarios or alternative futures. And so a lot of times what happens is, because your body is connected to this idea of, I'm going to do pattern and I'm going to do routine, then what happens is our routine creates our behaviors, which creates eventually our emotions, and our emotions become wrapped up in our behavior. So if we're used to, waking up in the morning, turning on our phone, checking Instagram, Facebook, emails, and then just doing, a bunch of different distracting things and not taking the time to create and visualize a new future, then we're really just going to go back into a pattern of just whatever brings us the most comfort, whatever brings us the most ease, and keeps us in the same pattern of behavior. So a lot of times, when we're stuck, we're not thinking about possible futures because we don't actually delve into our brain long enough to slow down the thinking, slow down from the distractions, and allow ourselves to actually start visualizing a new possible future. And unless you meditate and actually take the time to slow down, and I think sometimes that's why I think running could be meditative. I just became a runner during the pandemic as well. I haven't gotten up to 10 miles yet, but one day I'm gonna be joining you on that race. But just taking that time to think and slow down can really help us to start creating the future that we want to have, and getting comfortable with the discomfort of that, because a lot of times our body just wants to go back to what's familiar. So that's why we love the Oreos, we love the fried food, we love, all the things that make us just feel that dopamine hit that makes us feel happy for the moment, but doesn't really create a new alternative future of what we want to see. So love that you're incorporating that stuff, and especially at this age, because it only gets harder when you get older.
Also, not being hard on ourselves when we do have a day when we try all the kind of Oreos. We all have those days, but then being like, oh, it's been 2 or 3 days. All right, let me go on the walk. Let me get my bike. Just don't be hard on yourself, I would say as well.
Yes, I love that. Don't be hard on yourself. The next moment is anything's possible the next moment. So I love that. Thank you so much. Sierra, I want to hear what does it look like for you? I'm imagining, Sierra, and I could be wrong about this, but you might be the youngest of all of us here. So I'm curious in your perspective, and then even those who are around you, like the influences of your friends and people who you're interacting with. What has it been like for you to consider self-care, and what does that look like day to day?
Well, I'd say so far, during this pandemic, I think the best conversation I've ever had was talking about Oreos with you guys. How do you guys know my favorite food? But so actually one of the things I think I realized coming into the pandemic, one of the very important people to me, very close to me, they told me at the 2020 New Year was to please be healthy. And hearing those words, actually, I never considered that, especially coming from a military background, coming from African-American background. It's not something you really think of. But when it was said to me at that time, it really sparked something. And it made me really think about like, oh, what does this mean to be healthy? So mentally, I would say that having those words in my mind, having that like as a thought process was very important throughout this pandemic. And those words carried me throughout even the things that I decided to do and not do. It really helped. And even one of the other biggest things to my life in this pandemic and even before was being involved as a student. I'm part of an international student volunteer group, and we also have the chapter of ASAS at BCC, but also at other CUNYs. And just being a part of an organization really helped throughout this pandemic the most, because through it we were able to have a student body that was able to relate to one another, but also be able to provide solutions and being able to raise awareness, not on just the complaints of things, but also having like the formal education from a student perspective, not just like lecture style like we do in Zoom and just get zoomed out. It's really important to be able to have it from a student perspective. So I think mentally that was the way that me and some of my friends were able to overcome the ways of the pandemic, being online and virtually, especially if you were not virtually inclined before the pandemic. One of the things I suffered the most was being virtual, being online. I did not like it. There's a second thing I think I disliked most, other than like being at home, was being online. So before the pandemic, one of the things I kind of, I guess you can say, give myself a title of escaper. I always would escape home. Even when I was young, I always escaped home, but not because there were problems or things like that. It's just like I know my ways, that if I stay at home, I will be in bed until 2 p.m. kind of thing. So one of the things during the pandemic that I think I had to manage the most was having to be home, because everything that I would do to be away from home, whether it be go to organization groups or go to events or just being out, going to church, all of those things had shifted to being online.
Yeah.
And that's my number 2 most hated thing. So it was very challenging in that way, having to deal with that. But one of the things that helped me overcome it was the fact that there was resources. One of the things that we were able to do throughout the pandemic was I was able to participate in a few forums, one being human rights that took place right at the end of 2020. And being able to understand human rights from this perspective and how I can apply it in the pandemic, it really helped me kind of get my life together as far as having a mental hold of myself. And then also going to the physical component, I definitely did try every Oreo too. So I think we're all in that boat together. And I enjoyed it, every moment of it. But being that I actually had previous surgeries in the past, one of the things that those words, please be healthy, would ring to me was that I had to actually address being able to have life care, not just for the moment, taking care of something, but being able to have a life plan and life program with my health. So being able to just sit and actually make appointments throughout the whole year, even though they were all online, it was very nice to be able to do, and also very important for me. I feel like through that, this year, at least even before, I didn't have any idea. I just knew, okay, I had this, I had that problem, I had this. But actually being able to have a full understanding of those things, and then also seeing how our healthcare workers transform to even help us understand these type of things. I think it really did make, even though it's a gloomy situation, this pandemic, being able to make it have a positive light.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so can you describe more about the health component that you're mentioning that you were part of? What does that look like? What is that organization? What is that called?
Which one? Sorry.
So you said you were at the end of last year, you started getting more engaged in the health, I forget how you said it, but the health career.
Oh, health aspect, yes.
Aspect,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, health
no
aspect.
worries.
Yeah, no.
I thought it might have been an organization, but I guess it might not
Yes.
be. Okay.
So it's an international student volunteer group. It's called ACES. It stands Save the Earth from A to Z.
Save
But
from A to Z. Okay.
From A to Z, yes. But we started hosting these forums before we had in-person forums, but we started hosting these forums throughout the pandemic, starting with our first mental health forum. And through this forum, we not only offer solutions from a student perspective, but also brought on some professionals and expertise that had some type of background that were used to or already familiar with the mental problems when it comes to like isolation and not being being able to be social as you are in normal situations, because some people in the world, they had these problems even before the pandemic. So there are also expertise that have that solution as well. And what was amazing was that we were able to get a panel of different professionals from actually university groups. So Columbia University, and then also a university in Virginia, Old Dominion University. So we were able to get a lot of different ideas from a lot of different perspectives and be able to present that to students, because I think having that versus having the social media trending and the social media scares and all these things, all of the negative and positive like mixture, being able to just be able to find all of a good place where they can find different solutions to some things that they would be able to have. It was really amazing. And we've continued to do this since then as well.
That's awesome. That's really powerful stuff. All right, so we're gonna try to add that to our resources list. Save the earth from A to Z. Super cool.
Yeah.
Love that you're a part of that. I want to continue with you, actually, Sarah, on one more question, because you mentioned how you're on Zoom all the time, right? You said you talk about being on Zoom on classes, probably for some of these meetings with for Stiasis, I think you said it, and then also for church. I think you mentioned church, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to ask plain, and you all can expand as much as you want to, but are you zoomed out? And if so, what are ways that you're using to actually make yourself become a little bit more, I guess, how do you adjust to that? How do you calibrate to that so you don't lose your mind being on Zoom so much? What does that look like for you? Are you zoomed out?
Not quite yet. Although I had a negative mindset towards being on Zoom and being in the virtual world before the pandemic, I think through this, I've learned a lot. One of the things that I heard actually about 2 weeks ago on Zoom through education was that, every one negative word, it takes 1,000 positive words to be able to combat it. So being able to have and that's scientifically speaking, so you can use that anywhere you go. One negative word, 1,000 positive words need to combat that. So having that in my mind, and when it comes to Zoom, I've come to realize that it is actually very beneficial through this. One of the biggest excuses, especially while I was in the military, that I would have was that I'm too far. I was in California, my family was in Florida, so I never seen them, only once a year. And I made that kind of a trend that even whenever I got close to them, like physically in the state, then I didn't still go see them. So, but having Zoom and having these type of platforms that are able to bring us together, no matter what part of the world we are in, it is very amazing. And I feel like as a human society, it's going to help us grow more. It's going to have to, even though it may seem impersonal, it makes us also become more personable with someone, because even though you could have only seen them once a year, now I get to see them 10, 20, 30 times. My mom has an iPhone now and she FaceTimes me. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? I am not used to this. Calm down a little bit. But, so it's really amazing because it really helps us become better humans too. Even though we might feel it, I think as long as we, as I guess you can say, the coordinators of the Zoom, if we are coordinated in Zoom, we have to be mindful, and we have to realize that this is something somebody probably just got off a Zoom call just before. And like, I'm about to go into a Zoom call right after this. So we have to really be mindful of that when it comes to how we present information. And I think, at least when it comes to the struggles of the pandemic, one of the things I saw, like for professors and faculty and staff, was being able to change that information and transform it into something that will be meaningful for the student, especially since they cannot see them most of the time because we don't turn our camera on. And but you want to make sure they still grasp that information, and still is very something they can take with them. So I feel like it's not quite zoomed out yet, but I am very, 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 very happy to be on campus again. I love it. And I really hope that I'll be able to see you guys. And I really like to go to other Cunys all the time. You can ask the guys at Lehman. I used to go all the time because it was an open campus and I could just go as much as I want. But it seems like, at least for this semester, it seems like BCC and maybe LaGuardia, I heard, is probably one of the most open campuses right now. Interestingly, because we were the opposite before the pandemic. But I like it that I can go to campus and be able to see a lot of students.
Awesome. Well, hopefully when you go to LaGuardia, you'll see Christian rolling down the hallways as well at some point. But I love that reframe. I think it's so important what you just said, that, for every one word, it takes 1,000 one negative word, it takes 1,000 positive words. I got to look that stat up. That's an incredible idea. And I love that idea because I do believe that it also has to do with our ability to and like whatever we tell our bodies, whatever messages we tell ourselves, it actually becomes part of our DNA. It becomes part of our psychological parts of our body, and physiological parts of our body that determines how we feel about walking into a Zoom meeting, so to speak. So that reframe is super important because I think you mentioned, it's made you connect with your family more, made you connect with the military more, and it's allowed us to have some more personal conversations with people we maybe don't normally interact with as much. I know I've had a family Zoom chat we started at the beginning of the pandemic And it actually brought our family way closer together to now that we have a family chat, we have family text messages, family, conversations and hangouts and stuff. So I do appreciate what you're saying in that reframe, because it is the new reality. And the only thing I regret is I was on a flight back in like 2019. And I remember there was this basketball player, his name is Andre Iguodala. And he was, I was watching some short videos about the new investment opportunities on the plane. And Andre was like, yeah, there's this new company called Zoom coming out. And like, you should consider like investing in it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, let me turn to Sports Center, right? And so, man, I wouldn't even be, doing this job anymore if I. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I actually do love that the Zoom has changed the game in some ways. Obviously, we just did a poll on YouTube with our viewers, and 83% said yes, we're Zoomed out. So, Scott, I want to turn it to you. Are you Zoomed out? How you feeling? What's going on?
Actually, I'm not Zoomed out. My job, we did Zoom meetings every so often, but it wasn't really a thing. We did phone calls, which I actually dreaded phone calls. I couldn't stand phone calls. But as far as Zoom is concerned, I'm actually enjoying it. And I think part of the perspective, or part of the reason why I'm doing it is because part of the reason why I'm enjoying it is because I don't feel like it was forced on me. I think I kind of made a decision as far as engaging in online classes to know, okay, this is going to be part of the curriculum. This is what I need to do. And I kind of embraced it from that aspect. It also took away a lot of procrastination that I've had. I forgot what you called it earlier.
The law of diminishing intent.
Yes, the law of diminishing intent. I think, again, because I'm going back to school for the first time in years, I think Zoom takes away the excuse for me not to go to class. Like, all I have to do is basically just go over here, turn the computer on, I'm there. I don't have to get on a bus or get on a train or scramble to leave work to run across town to go to class. So Zoom actually really was a great tool for me to get rid of that procrastination feature that I had in my life. Again, that's just me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I actually don't mind the Zoom. I've learned to blur my background. I've learned to, I have a bunch of shirts that I can wear now. So I can do 10 Zoom meetings in a day and have a different look every time. So I'm liking this actually. But I know I'm in the minority. This is all new for me, so I get it. But no, to answer the question, no, I'm actually kind of enjoying it.
Okay, yeah, I respect that. Wardrobe change, it's amazing. Good stuff. Christian, I would love to hear your perspective.
I'm actually not Zoomed out, but I do make sure that sometimes, like today as well, I am on a lot of Zoom calls for work, for class, and sometimes after a certain session, I just close my laptop and I just go back to interacting with human beings and my family at home. But one of the things that I would say is that it allows me to I would say still be a full-time dad. Like just the other day, I was rushing home from picking up my daughter from school because I had class. So as soon as I got in the house, I opened my laptop, got on Zoom, and in other words, got in school, in class. So it still allows me to balance life. Mm-hmm. I just make sure that I'm still productive, and even like in regards to work, I still try my best to bring energy when I'm working. I've become an amateur DJ before our classes, or in that little 15-minute grace period when students are signing on. I'll be bringing them the ultimate vibes. So just adapting as a human being. I'm not Zoomed out yet, even though I prior to the pandemic, I used the Hunter hallways as like, the city fashion show, like bringing all the quote unquote drip, bringing all the fashion to Hunter and all the energy and being in the city and stuff. But you got to adapt. So I would say there are many positives to Zoom, like you guys said as well.
I love it. Congrats, man. I love that. Amateur DJ. We need to get you on a 1 and 2s at some point in the future, when we have our in-person BMI meeting in the future. So congrats on that. That sounds like a lot of fun as well. I want to just get your all perspective as we start to wrap up this conversation about just like ideas and suggestions that you would offer to your fellow students and your fellow classmates who are going through moments of stress and obviously having to deal with this challenge that we're all in right now. It's important to me that we always are offering resources to our students. And so I want to know, in what ways have you actually used or taken advantage of, whether it be the BMI office or CUNY offices that are on campus that are providing resources to you or your community, so that we can just like expose those resources to those who are listening in this audience. Some people who are here are listening live, some will listen in the playback, but we do want to share this with our community at large. So this is a chance for us to hear about what advantages and resources you're taking advantage of in this time frame. I also want to point out, I think Dean Gant from BCC gave a shout out. He's here listening, I believe. He talked about the Zoom advantage as being a pandemic perk. So I want to shout out Dean Gant. Appreciate you. Glad you're here. But also I want to hear from you all. What are the resources you're taking advantage of during this time, whether it be at CUNY or beyond, that are helping you navigate this pandemic? So I'm going to go Christian, let's go Sierra, then Scott.
I wouldn't say I'm taking advantage of any like specifics. Like I know when, pre-COVID, you could walk around and you see different people from different programs or even going to different campuses and stuff. But I would say that as of late, honestly, just really knowing in a sense who your circle is, even if it's not, it could be a classmate. You don't have to be best friends with them for them to say, hey, I need help with this, or hey, I missed class, and just being open in helping one another, because we're all in it together. One of the things about CUNY Fatherhood is that we're very open. It's very much a family, very, very much a family. So just being open with one another. Let's say if one colleague that you may be close with, you see they haven't really been around, even though it's Zoom, or even like been themselves, just kind of hit them on a text. Yo, what's up? Are you all right? We've gone to people's houses, like, yo, what's good? How's your mental health? So just offering that support and knowing when you're not doing your best, reaching out to someone, hey, yo, how you doing? This happened with me. How's everything with you? Just really checking in and knowing that we're all in this together, whether you're able to go to campus or not.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. The biggest resources can be the people around you and the family, people that love you. So I love that. Thank you so much. All right, Sierra, what are the resources you've been using or have taken advantage of or can share with us?
Yes, thank you. So I would say that from my experience so far, even though it's little and it has a few pandemic years in it with CUNY, I think a lot of the resources that the school has to offer can be very beneficial. One of the first resources that I got introduced on campus to, thanks to the ACES advisor, was the now called ARC at BCC, Access Resource Center, formerly known as Single Stop. This resource is amazing. And if you haven't heard about it, even at one point they were providing for other CUNYs as well. And they offer so many like school related help, whether it be if you need food, there's a food pantry. If you need someone to talk to, there's Deidre, she's amazing. If you need even counseling support, every year they help taxes for students for free. Like a lot of these things where you're like, yeah, you have to go out and get them, because you're one of the things being a student is that this is your first step into life, to real life, the real world for most people. So being able to go out and be able to have those resources as such as the ARC provides at BCC, which I'm pretty sure there's other related services at other colleges as well. And also, I think what I found here through the Cuny Bmi is a beautiful beginning so far. Being able to start with these guys, and even from the first week of all of these different scholarships, come get them. Like, this is something that many students don't know. I didn't know before until I was introduced, but then now being able to see all of these different opportunities and never letting go of those opportunities. And then lastly, but not least, as I mentioned before, student organizations. It will not be anything you will regret. I feel like when I first went to school, because I'm a returning student, when I first went to school, I just was like, I'm just gonna go in and out and be done. But I feel like having a student body and being able to be a part of an organization, especially during this pandemic, I feel like it will help, because now, since you even if you're feeling zoomed out, if you feel like you're zoomed out, at least whenever you click on that next link, it's going to be a whole bunch of people that you know and love, and that are going to like understand the things that you're going through, and is able to like just be normal with you for a little bit. So despite if you have to be at home and in your little corner for 10 hours of the day, at least you can be able to log in and see some beautiful faces and just be able to get a little laugh or something like that. And it's very personal. I feel like the personal aspect of volunteer of student organizations is very beneficial for many people to have. So
Yeah.
Hopefully a lot of students will realize it too during this pandemic.
Awesome. Shout out to the Access Resource Center, formerly Single Stop. They're doing some great work through the Office of Special Programs and really helping to give a shout out to Dean Sunday Coward, to who was the lady in the office again? You said Deidre?
Deidre Polite.
She's
very polite.
Yeah, she's very polite. Shout out to Deidre Polite and the entire team that's helping to provide those resources for those students on the campus. So please check out Access Resource Center or Single Stop, whatever it's called on your campus, as they've done some amazing work to help supplement needs for students across those CUNY schools. All right, turn it over to you, Scott. Scott, what resources have you taken advantage of, or what's out there for you?
I think from the school standpoint, the Male Empowerment Network has been really a lot of fun, actually. I don't even know how they found me, because I didn't find them. I just got this email one day and said, hey, if you're interested, come on by to this Zoom meeting, again, Zoom. And so I clicked on it, and, a month or so, or a month and a half ago or so, and Cliff was on the, Cliff introduced me and, broke it down to how it was. And it's been really great for me, just to be able to talk to people. And again, I love my support system that I have at home with my family, but it's just it's a little different in a good way to be able to talk to people that are going through the same exact things that you are as far as school is concerned. So I love that aspect of it. And as far as like anything outside of school, the most important thing I can impart to anybody else is that if you have any issues, even if you think you don't have issues, don't be afraid to express them. Talk to somebody about them, talk to a group, talk to somebody you trust, but don't be afraid of the negative aspect of whatever it is that you're going through. Don't be afraid to let your guard down and be vulnerable, because if you have a good support to, and again, that's another issue, that you have to have a good support system around you. But if you have a good support system, they're not going to exploit you for whatever weaknesses that you think you have. If anything, they're going to look at you as being strong enough to admit that weakness and to look for help for it. And that's a big thing that we people of color, and especially as men, because we have to be so, we have to carry this macho image and be in charge and be all knowing all the time. It's okay to not fit that mold sometimes. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I'm afraid. It's okay to say, I'm confused. And once we and it's real tricky to be able to admit that in certain circles. But the sooner we get that, the sooner you can come out of that mold and just be unafraid to express yourself. That would be beneficial to everybody, the people that you're talking to, and of course for yourself.
Love that. That's some wisdom right there. So thank you for imparting that wisdom to us, and that shared perspective. It is a sign of strength to ask for help. It's a sign of strength to say, I need and I want support, not weakness. And I love that. And even if there is weakness there, that's okay too. But it's also just a great sign of strength in my life of taking advantage of the supports that are around me and the resources that are available to me. All right, so we've come up on our hour of time. I want to kind of close out our conversation with you just telling us, where can we find you? What is the name of your Cuny Bmi program, and where can we follow them, even whether it be social media, or how do we just kind of learn of the work that is happening through your BMI project. Anything else you want to know, any announcements, anything that's going on in your world? So I'm going to start with Scott, and then I'll go with Sierra, and then I'll go with Christian to close us out. But anything, how do we get in touch with you, or what do you want us to know about you and your program, and how do we actually learn more about getting connected to the Male Empowerment Network, to the Cuny Fatherhood Academy, and all of the things that you're a part of? So Scott, you first. You're muted, Scott.
See, it's that Zoom thing again. So the Male Empowerment Network, which I mentioned, is actually the only group that I'm, aside from ASAP, that I've been involved with on campus. And I really feel through them, you can go in all kinds of directions. They have their hands in everything on campus. There's a lot of knowledgeable brothers there and sisters that really are there to help everybody. Now, it's a village. It's about helping the whole entire village. And it makes everybody better. So definitely the Male Empowerment Network at BCC. You can reach them through, through Clifford Marshall is the best way to reach out to them through the standard clifford.marshall@BCC and so forth. That'd probably be the best way to reach out. And it's not like it's a closed group, like any group on any CUNY campus. It's open. There's no real process to joining. Just come in and sit down or Zoom in and just enjoy what the group has to offer.
Awesome. Yep. Yeah. And we keep Cuny BMI open to anybody who wants to join, regardless of your background, your race, gender, pronouns. We want everyone to be a part of Cuny BMI who wants to be a part of it. So we are targeting, obviously, improving the outcomes for Black and Latino men, but it's for everyone because we know the support and resources that are here. It works. It works. It works. So thank you for that. Clifford.marshall@bcc.cuny.edu is a way to get in touch with Clifford L. Marshall II, who is the director of the Cuny BMI BCC Male Empowerment Network program. So thank you so much. Sierra, what resources, how do we get in touch? How do we follow the work you're doing?
So like Scott mentioned, I'm a part of the Male Empowerment Network as well. So definitely come on by to the office, to the department. If you come to BCC, please come. If you're a BCC student, I don't know what they're doing for others, but you can find out. Or you can just tell them, Clifford Marshall, and then he'll give you access to the campus. If he knows you're coming to see him, he'll be very excited. And that service that is provided on the campus, I'm pretty sure he will find out where, if you're not a BCC member, what type of service that is provided at your college. So it's really amazing. And then if you want to find me as a university student volunteer, you can always go on Instagram or Twitter. We have both, is ASEZ, East Coast. But if you just type in ASEZ, you'll see all of us, because we have in California, we have a global network with our friends in China. So you can see a lot of things that we are doing as well. And then if you want to find me, just come to BCC, come to Roscoe Brown, and you will get a greeting no matter what. If I'm walking on campus, you will get a greeting. So please come on by.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sierra, for that information. Appreciate it so much. Christian, give us some insight. How do we get in touch with your work?
With me, it's on Instagram, it's CUNY_fatherhood, and we show everything. We testimonies of our students, sometimes our guys with their kids. Like me, I post my daughter a lot, even walking to school. We tend to have books that we would show that we're reading, kind of like, I don't know if it's a book of the month we tend to do, but we're gonna be doing that more. I very much believe that. I tell my guys a lot, like, yo, throughout this cohort, at least read one book. We were just putting up some posts about Hispanic Heritage Month, and very much like you said, we're really just out to serve all men that have children, right? And we're talking very much about support groups for our men. You know, we haven't really had that throughout time, but we also have services for their partners, their significant others, their wives, everybody in their family. So, you know, we do serve these young men first for their education, for career, and in order to become better as men, but we serve everyone in their family, everybody. So I'm very much like you said, you could just walk onto you guys' campuses and be greeted very much with me, and I might even buy y'all some coffee, so pull up.
Perfect. It's funny because I'm looking at the virtual background you have, and I was like, oh, maybe we can get some coffee after this. And
I usually have coffee, but I'm trying to not get all jittery.
good man, good man. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being so active in your Cuny BMI communities and your own worlds as well outside of Cuny, and for contributing so much in this conversation to those who are wanting that support to figure out how to navigate this difficult experience. So appreciate you being here. Thank you for the time. And for the audience who are watching today, thank you for being with us. And understand that Cuny BMI is at every single Cuny BMI Cuny campus. So you can find us very easily by going to www.cuny.edu/BMI, and you can find under the campus projects link, find a campus near you that has a list of our programs, our contact information, our purpose for each of those programs, their vision statement, and how you can get in touch with somebody who runs that program. So please join. We'd love to have you join us. It's also on the chat, so follow us on YouTube at Cuny BMI, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cuny BMI, and follow us. We'll be doing these dialogues every second Thursday of the month, going through the end of the semester. So we look forward to seeing you next month, where we have some esteemed panel and some esteemed guests that are part of our Cuny BMI advisory board. And so you'll be hearing Dr. Jeff Gardier, one of our advisory board members, lead that conversation. So please join us again the second Thursday of November at the same time, 12 Eastern. And for those who are familiar with the handshake, you know what we do? We go, I am BMI.